Nearby is another arms supply warehouse.
At this warehouse, sources have told me who are very acquainted with the warehouse that an American comes into the warehouse every few weeks and asks, is there anything that is needed? And that includes military equipment. Requests are then put in and the military equipment arrives. I doubt that it comes directly from the United States. It's much more likely that that would then come from Singapore. But I find it highly unlikely that Singapore is by itself paying for the arms that would end up to the KPNLF, and it's more likely that it comes from a deeper pocket like the United States.
If our assistance, our overt and our covert assistance, is successful, it will have the direct result of returning the Khmer Rouge to power. That's the end result of any kind of military successes of the people we're supporting. It's the only time I can think of in history where we would desperately not want the military success of the people whom we are supporting. And I think we're playing a very, very dangerous game with our policy, and the United States policy is just simply an obscenity.
Then why, with the Khmer Rouge within striking distance of Phnom Penh, is this policy, which you describe as an obscenity, still being pursued here in Washington?
Well, I think it's because there's a small group of people at the top in the State Department and in the National Security Council who are still fighting the Vietnam War.
This is the State Department in Washington. Last July, Secretary of State James Baker said that America had changed its policy towards Cambodia, but he gave few details. I went to try and find out exactly what America's policy was. Sorry? No, I haven't been pre-cleared. No? Thank you.
Yes, sir. What we need to ask you to do is not to film in here until we get a reading on it. First of all, we don't permit any filming inside the State Department.
Is that a rule?
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah,
is it a written rule? Or?
Yes, it is.
No film.
Is the camera on?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's on. I'd like to see Mary Carlin Yates, who's the head of the Public Affairs Department, please. Hello. Yes.
I'm Joan Cutaway, Mary Yates' secretary.
Good, yes. I've been trying to contact an official of the press department, the State Department, for more than a year to get a statement of American policy on Cambodia.
Okay.
And that's why I've had to come here today to deliver this letter. We believe there are urgent questions that should be answered. That's the letter.
I'll give this to her and have her get back with you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
For more than a year now, we've been asking the State Department to speak about Cambodia, simply to state American policy. Each time we've been refused or fobbed off. I've never known such reticence in Washington on any issue. We've now learned that last April a policy decision was taken to keep the whole question of Cambodia's future and of American support for the Khmer Rouge off television.
The administration media policy is very clear that they feel they can take all of the editorials against their policy in every newspaper in the country, and that those are just glancing blows, but they need to stay off of television. And they have done everything they possibly could, time and time again. They've made commitments to do TV interviews on national networks, and then reneged on the commitments, and then tried to bring people at as low down a position in the bureaucracy to be the on-camera spokespeople. This is a policy that dares not speak its name. This is a policy which cannot stand the light of public scrutiny. This is a policy which is a cancer on the body politic of America.
But what are the roots of current American policy in Cambodia? After Pol Pot had taken over in Cambodia in 1975, his army attacked Vietnam, killing thousands of villagers, as this rare film shows. In 1978, the Vietnamese overthrew the genocidal regime in Phnom Penh. Almost immediately, the United States began to give secret aid to Pol Pot. Washington was then courting the Chinese, who were Vietnam's ancient enemies and Pol Pot's main backers. The American aid to Pol Pot was critical in restoring the Khmer Rouge as a military force, now operating from Thailand. The extent of American support was revealed in this correspondence from congressional lawyer Jonathan Weiner. When this letter was circulated, the Reagan administration was furious. Then, without explaining why, the author repudiated the information, although it had come from the Congressional Research Service. However, the information in this second letter was, he told me, absolutely correct. It amounted to the same conclusion. Here was clear evidence that Pol Pot's secret backer was Washington. As a cover for its secret war against Cambodia, Washington set up the Kampuchea Emergency Group in Thailand. Known as KEG, it ensured that Western supplies were delivered to Khmer Rouge camps. In 1980, bowing to US pressure, the World Food Programme handed over $12 million worth of food to the Thai army to pass on to the Khmer Rouge. In November of that year, Dr. Ray Klein, a former deputy director of the CIA and close advisor to Ronald Reagan, made a secret visit to a Khmer Rouge base camp inside Cambodia. Within a year, 50 CIA agents were running America's Cambodia operation from Thailand. KEG was now known as the Working Group. Its job is to provide battle plans, war material, and satellite intelligence to the so-called non-communist resistance, most of it paid for by Washington. Today, American policy continues unchanged behind the front of United Nations involvement, which may well have the final effect of turning Cambodia into another Lebanon. Cambodia is the only country in the world to be denied United Nations development aid, and America, with China, has led this embargo. Without development aid, Cambodia will never, for example, have uncontaminated water, and children such as these will continue to die from preventable diseases.
Hang, it's exactly 1 year since we were here and walked down this corridor of these children, and nothing appears to have changed at all.
The patient exceeds the capacity of this hospital, you know. That's why they still stay in the corridor.
See, this little child's exactly the same as a child lying there a year ago, who I doubt would have survived. Can you ask the mother what she's suffering from?
Well, this child is suffering from diarrhea and fever.
Nothing has changed in 1 year. Here we have children who are suffering, and embargo means denying them the basic needs that could help these children recover so quickly. Those who sit in the United Nations in great comfort ought to be confronted by scenes like this, to actually stand next to a child in such need.
What they did in the United Nations, you know, I think is really unfair, because they vote against Cambodia and let children die because of diarrhea.
Last year, the United States stopped a United Nations development aid mission from going to Cambodia. Pol Pot has described American policy as very correct. American officials have constantly denied that they give any aid to Pol Pot, but US Army weapons are reaching the Khmer Rouge via their allies, and we have evidence of direct American and British assistance to Pol Pot. From New Zealand, Sue Elliott, a senior official working with Cambodian refugees, talked to me on behalf of a former Cambodian guerrilla who, fearing for his life, must remain anonymous. Sue, could you tell me a little about your source and also about yourself?
I work with refugees and have done so for some 12 years, and I have just returned from a study tour which took me to the United States, Britain and Thailand. The source is somebody I know and trust well, who told me this information because they want the world to know, and I myself want to hand it on for humanitarian reasons.